Do you think Kris Murray to the Kings is a real thing? From Carl in Carmichael.
I do.
I think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kris Murray, makes some sense on one level. Of course, he plays a position where I think the Kings need some depth.
The only thing that would prevent them from taking him is him not being available. I think that there's a very real shot that Murray goes before the Kings pick at 24.
They obviously are going to have a lot of intel on him, on his family, from Keegan himself.
I don't know if it's necessarily necessary. I'm jumping to a lot of conclusions here because they're identical twins, but that feels redundant.
I think it's going to be really hard for the Kings to pass on him. Just to start with the basketball fit, I mean, he's a big forward who can do a little bit of everything, a little bit more of a Swiss Army knife than Keegan is.
I think it makes a lot of sense. He can shoot. Now, he's not as good of a shooter as Keegan was.
I know one is right-handed and one is left-handed, but they are very similar players. So, I mean, I guess he could help, and everybody's saying he's NBA ready, and I think this year they have to go with NBA ready.
I think, to me, for the Kings at 24, the most compelling storyline is Kris Murray.
If Kris Murray did get drafted by the Kings, where would he fit in? From Frank in Fair Oaks.
He's going to have to fight for minutes. I mean, if Sasha Vezenkov is coming over, if Trey Lyles is going to be retained as a free agent.
Yeah, I think he's a bench guy.
He'd be coming off the bench, for sure.
I think he would be probably your 8th guy off the bench, 9th guy off the bench to start. I mean, he's not going to be in the starting 5. At least I wouldn't anticipate that.
I don't know that he has a set position, but I think he's a guy who's coming off the bench and giving you some good quality minutes. That's what you'd hope, not just from Kris Murray, but whoever they go with that first pick.
I think the forward position right now is tricky because of 2 unknown entities, maybe 3 at the moment, right? We don't know about Trey Lyles' future with the Kings. We don't know about Harrison Barnes' future with the Kings or Sasha Vezenkov's future with the Kings. Those are all 3 guys that can play forward, 3, 4, even Lyles 5. So that makes it tricky. So if any one of those elements isn't there and they draft Kris Murray, I think he has a much more prominent role. If they're there and they draft him, then he's got to kind of find his way to fit in.
Do you think there could be like a Parent Trap situation?
I've pitched this a few times. I say just switch uniforms and keep one guy with fresh legs. You know what I mean? Just let one guy play one night, another guy play the other night, keep fresh legs, and run them out there and get the most out of them. I don't know how that benefits them because only one is going to look good on paper and get the contract. But if it helps the Kings, it helps the Kings. I love the Parent Trap scenario.
Do you have a draft crush? From Tom in Midtown.
I don't know that I have a first-round name that I'm locked into besides Kris Murray. I think there's just so much that feels right about him. If you think about Monty's track record, now again, he's had 3 draft choices. I think his pattern has been to select a player that's got a lot of experience that's NBA ready.
Emoni Bates is a guy that I'm intrigued by, but he's also a guy that people are saying might be a project and might need some time to develop.
I cannot help but have a lot of draft infatuation with Emoni Bates.
You're talking about a guy who was the number 2 recruit out of high school just a couple of years ago.
He's a guy whose pedigree speaks for itself, was a Gatorade High School Player of the Year as a sophomore, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't have a lot of draft crushes when you get into the 20s. There are some names that stand out to me. Trace Jackson Davis is somebody from Indiana. He's a better passer than people might realize. I think he's a better scorer than some people might realize. A lot of people have him as a likely 2nd-round pick. I think he could be an end of the 1st-round guy.